Hi there, and welcome to another episode of A Conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier, President of Action for Life, and this is Father Michael Orsi. Hello there, Father.
Hello, my friend. What up?
We've been doing fine, Father.
Yeah, I'll tell you, things is moving along.
Yes, indeed, in many different ways. Today, I thought we would talk about disparate impact thinking.
All right, now, folks, BC, you have to explain that.
Yes. Well, let me just preface it by saying a couple of months ago, Hillsdale College had a seminar here in Naples. It was a leadership seminar. And they included a talk about disparate impact thinking. Disparate impact thinking refers to the analysis of policies or practices that may appear neutral, but disproportionately affect certain groups based on characteristics such as race, gender, or age. It involves examining outcomes to identify and address unintentional discrimination, even if there is no evidence of explicit bias. Well, that's disparate impact thinking. It's a solution in search of a problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, certainly if you're looking at life through the prism of race or gender, I think you're going to be finding problems everywhere. You just can't go by proportion. You know, we need a certain proportion of Black, a certain proportion of Asians, a certain proportion of Catholics, a certain proportion of Jews. You know, to what end? Just for the right mix?
Right.
Just for, you know, what's the goal? The goal is just to say we have the right mix in society and therefore everything is fair and square.
I think I can give you an example that occurred in the 60s. When I was in junior high school, we had 5 divisions: the extraordinarily smart, the above average, the below average, and the stupid. Stupid is probably not the right word.
But that's, unfortunately, folks, that's how people were labeled. I remember we had tracks.
Okay.
And
same thing.
Yeah.
So the teachers were allowed to teach to the class. So, as you can imagine, these kids in the top tier were doing the equivalent of AP classes. And the kids in the bottom tier were focusing on reading, writing, and arithmetic, just to get the basic skills. And somewhere along the line, someone in the education system decided that that was not a good idea, that everyone should be mainstreamed. Well, in the process, Father, in my opinion, all it did is lower the common denominator.
Yeah.
It took this really smart kids and made them bored.
Yeah.
Because the teacher is trying to teach to a very broad section of intellects.
Right. Well, you know, the fact of the matter is, although we are all created equal by Almighty God, with the equality that God sees us and that God wants us all to be saved and that we all have entitlements to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, it goes according to also what our gifts and talents are. And let's face it, not everybody is cut out to be a neurosurgeon.
Right.
And quite honestly, folks, I'm not cut out to be a neurosurgeon, all right? If you remember young Frankenstein, you put the wrong brain in. Which brain did you put in? Abby normal. Well, that would be me. So we all have our gifts and talents, and we can't say that we're all the same in that respect. Same thing, let's take another example. Baseball. Look, I would love to have played center field for the New York Yankees.
Sure.
But that was never going to happen. Never, ever, ever going to happen. I'm not gifted in that way. All right? I'm not Mickey Mantle. Okay? I never will be or ever could have been Mickey Mantle. Don't have genetic makeup. You know, don't have that desire to play like he played.
But if you extended disparate impact thinking to that scenario,
right,
they would have you in center field because,
yeah.
You know, we should have a nice Italian boy there.
They had DiMaggio.
I mean, I don't know. This is politics over the practical.
Yeah. When you lose the idea of merit, we have a meritocracy, that you achieve certain things because you deserve this because of your intellectual ability, your physical ability, even your looks. I mean,
and your hard work, and some luck, and the grace of God. I mean, all those things that go into the mix.
Yeah, I mean, they have this, folks. I've never gone into a Victoria's Secret shop. Believe me, I never have, or seen. I don't think I ever saw a catalog, but they were advertising in the newspapers some of the new catalogs, and they wanted to be fair to some women who were overweight. And so you have these overweight.
Plus size.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure there are overweight people that, are very, very nice people and very, very pretty people in an overweight way. But not everybody is that kind of a model that they would be on the front page of whatever.
But I think the political environment is such that Victoria's Secret has no choice.
Yeah.
I mean, they know better, right? Internally, but they're going to get so much blowback that they bow to the will of the vocal minority, what I call a vocal minority.
Yeah.
And that's disparate impact thinking.
Yeah.
And it seems to have pervaded every level of our society.
Yeah. Now, what about these people who say they're women, but they're really men? I mean, is that part of this whole thing?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, it just goes on, and some of it is just plain nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess, the extremes on both sides of our political spectrum are dictating an awful lot of things that most of us in the middle aren't interested in having or seeing, right? I don't know. It's just when I read about this, I thought Father Orsi and I need to talk about this.
Like let's take a hypothetical. Suppose let's go back to the business world, okay? And I have a business, and I'm manufacturing clothing, just like I'm manufacturing clothing. Does that mean that I have to have in my organization or my corporation, like all different kinds of people just to make up a quota, 13% of this, 13% of that, 20% of this? Is it just by gender? Is it just by race? How do they decide? I mean, what about, natural talents? Where does that play a role?
And beyond that, let's continue with that hypothesis. If you FUBU, black clothing line for us, by us, FUBU. It is a clothing line designed for African Americans by African Americans. Now, with disparate impact thinking, should the majority of the employees be white because, the black population is only 13%? Of course not. It's a black enterprise that is directed toward a black audience. I'm guessing that most everybody at that company would be African American, and rightfully so. Right?
I would think so, but is that not is that like politically incorrect?
Well, I think it is, but
does it work reverse? I mean, all right, so we're talking about a minority that owns this company. Is it okay for minority to exclude others?
It seems to me it is. So the door does not swing both ways. But my point is, there are, if we stay in the business world, there are enterprises that are directed toward LGBTQ patrons. Okay. So does everyone in that organization have to be gay or lesbian or queer or whatever? It seems not. But with disparate impact thinking, it seems like they would. And maybe a closer example is the Catholic Church. The hierarchy has determined, based on scripture, that priests and deacons be male.
Mm-hmm.
With disparate impact thinking, that if that thought process entered the Catholic Church, all of a sudden women would be priests and deacons.
Yeah, and that's something that we really have to be careful for, that religion doesn't fall into political correctness. And certain of the mainline churches have fallen into that, not just with who their ministers are. The Episcopal Church fell into that when they began to have women deacons first, and then women priests, and women bishops. And we have to be careful that we don't fall into that political correct disparate thinking too, because what happens then is that you ignore the revelation that the priesthood is reserved to males, and you just become something that mimics the rest of society. I think that we are in a very, very dangerous time in our society. It's kind of dumbing down, not just religion. It's dumbing down our organizations. It's dumbing down, for instance, our military is being dumbed down.
Absolutely.
And we've been hearing more and more about that. The military can't even reach their quotas anymore. And the military is being filled with people who maybe they don't belong in the military, but they have a certain quota that they have to meet for women, certain quota they have to meet for people who are LGBTQ. And what happens then is the organization begins to break down, becomes less and less effective.
I may get crucified for this, but I was a Navy guy. When you live on a ship, you're in very, very close quarters. Mm-hmm. And it was determined that women should be able to serve on ships. Now, women always served in the Navy as what were called waves back then. But it was determined that women should be able to serve on board ship. That has caused all kinds of issues. Now, in an aircraft carrier where there are 4,000 or 5,000 sailors, not so much of a big deal.
Right.
When you have a nuclear submarine that has 90 or 100 sailors and they're out to sea for 3 months, that becomes a big deal. And that's, again, I believe, an example of disparate impact thinking.
Yeah.
It flies in the face of conventional wisdom,
right,
of common sense.
Right. Yeah, conventional wisdom is something that has somewhat gone out the window these days. There are certain things that you can say, or certain things that exist the way they are because, well, over the millennia, these things have been shown to work. This is what works. And this is the way human beings are constructed. This is the way we're made. This is what is good for a family. This is what is good for an organization. This is what is good for the military. And all of a sudden we begin to tamper with that because we think we have a new formula to make things right.
Yeah, right.
And what we do oftentimes is we create bigger divisions.
Well, how about the number of single-parent households? There's a great example, I think. We're going to pick this up in a moment, but first, we'll be back right after this. But for the moment, I'd like to talk to you about the expense of airing this program. Many people don't realize how expensive it is to produce this program and to get it on the air. Would you care to guess? It's about $3,000 per week. We think that's a reasonable expenditure, but obviously it's an expensive one. So we need to ask for your help. If you'll go to actionforlife.org and click on the donate button, it would be greatly appreciated. Now, you can donate once or you can donate each month, and we certainly have viewers who do both. We appreciate that. Please take time now to visit actionforlife.org and click on the donate button. Thank you so much for your support, and may God bless you always. Welcome back to a conversation with Father Orsi. I'm B.C. Cloutier. Father, before the break, we were talking about, our last subject was single-family households.
Right.
And I might add that there are people that probably want to throw a shoe at the television because they're very angry about what we're discussing this morning. And I think it's important to say that this is not about chauvinism or anything else.
No.
It's about the topic of disparate impact thinking, which to my way of thinking is doing things to achieve a certain result,
Right.
regardless of the circumstances.
Right. Regardless of biology, regardless of psychology, regardless of immemorial custom, tradition, law, just to create a society or a family that we design, and we are only sensitive to what is diverse and trying to make it something that is mainstream. That's how I see it. We're talking about the military, we talked about the family, the breakdown of the family, we talked about the military having a difficult time, even with, reaching quotas and motivation, all of those things. I just was amazed that the president, Biden, now says that single people or people who are not married are now entitled to have IVF, in vitro fertilization, paid for by the government. So what are you saying right there? You don't need married couples. And
are we talking about the devout Catholic Joe Biden? Just want to make sure.
The one and only, the one and only. But yeah, I think, and this is that, like, how do you just level the playing field? That's what it's about, leveling the playing field when it's not always a good idea to level the playing field. Look, I'd rather have a strong America than a weak America. Let's put it that way. I don't want to say, oh, we're just the same as Russia. We're just the same as China. No, we have to have a strong defense. We have to have a strong military. I don't want disparate thinking that the whole world is the same. You see, folks, you think it only goes through, corporations. They want percentage of women, percentage of men, a percentage of gay, a percentage of, whatever the case may be. This is a worldwide thing. This is that whole idea, that new world order, that everything is the same. Everybody is one, and nobody should raise their head above anybody else. Look, America is essential to the world. It's essential to the world.
Yep.
And America has to keep its head above the crowd for numerous reasons, not just so that, we are America first, taking care of ourselves. But without America, the world is in chaos. And America has to be able to step in and maybe cool down a situation or help level heads to prevail. And it's not happening now.
Right.
It's not happening.
Well, and as you pointed out, America is a meritocracy, and we have been the leader in so many fields, in medicine, in science, in defense, et cetera. I mean, we name all kinds of things. Somehow, when we enter into this disparate impact thinking, we are dumbing down. And we are motivating people to say, hey, cool your jets. You're making me look bad.
Yeah.
And that's not what built America.
No.
What built America was people saying, by gosh, I can do this.
Right.
And I will do it.
That's right. And, it's even affecting, this is unbelievable, the medical profession. I mean, we have 156 medical schools in this country. And now this disparate thinking, they have to have quotas.
Right.
A certain amount of women, a certain amount of black, a certain amount of this, a certain amount of that, LGBTQ.
And they reduce the requirements to meet those quotas.
Yeah, they're reducing the requirement. Look, folks, when I go to the doctor, I don't care if the doctor is purple. Okay, I can't say this on television.
I know.
I want the smartest doctor
Absolutely.
in the whole world. And I don't want to have some doctor come in and say, well, I get into medical school because I'm purple. No, I want you to go into medical school because you're smart and that you're going to be able to help me to find out, what's wrong with me and how you can help to make me better. That's what I want. But when you have people tampering around with admissions to medical schools, you're not having the best and the brightest. That's what you want. You want the best and the brightest, not disparate thinking. Disparate thinking, I'm going to use an Italian word here. That's stonata. You know what that is? That's nuts. You don't know I know all these languages.
Multilingual Father Orsi.
All the bad words I know.
We'll be back right after this.
Hi, folks. Over the weeks, you have become more and more familiar
with our program, Conversations with Father Orsi. I know that you are enjoying the programs because you tell me that you do. I want you to be sure that you should never worry about missing an episode, because you can go to actionforlife.org and catch all of the episodes that we have produced over the last year. Now, also, extra added bonus, you can watch my homilies, my weekly homilies about the Sunday readings. That's also on actionforlife.org. Lastly, both of these adventures, conversations and the homilies, they cost money. And I'm going to have to ask you if you can help us out, because so many of you tell me how much you enjoy the program. Some people tell me our Sunday wouldn't be the same. We record the program, we watch them during the week. This is an expensive enterprise, and we think it's an important way to get out the gospel message and to talk about those issues of the day that are important to us as Christians. So please go to your website, actionforlife.org. There is a button you can click for donations, and please, please be generous to us to keep this show on the air. Your Sundays will not be the same without it.
Welcome back to a conversation with Father Orsi. I'm BC Cloutier. We're talking today about disparate impact thinking. It's a crazy concept. Hillsdale College, as I mentioned at the top of the half hour, actually had a leadership seminar, and they discussed this issue. It's sending our country in the wrong direction.
Sure it is. But Leo, let's just talk about business. So if I have a business, do I have to say, well, I want a disparate workforce? I want people who know their job.
Right.
I want people who are able to help the business to grow, to get better, to get bigger. I don't want somebody there just because they're the right color or the right gender. I don't. That's destructive to our human ingenuity.
You know, it's also just one thing that I think FDR did very well in the depths of the Depression was he created a lot of make-work jobs, right? The WPA, the CCC, et cetera. Because, not that I'm in favor of the government creating make-work jobs, although Lord knows we have millions of them in Washington, D.C. That's neither here nor there. He realized that when people felt that they were contributing, when they earned a paycheck and they could go home to their family and be proud that they brought the paycheck home, that it lifted people who were in a very difficult period.
Sure.
And we've lost that.
Yeah. There's nothing more rewarding than to put in a hard day's work and say, I earned this. Because what it does is it gives us a sense of accomplishment and a sense of pride in ourselves that I earned this, and that I'm going to do good things with this.
I'm contributing.
Yeah, I'm contributing. And just the person that is working for the good of their family. And you go home and you say, I made this money and I'm going to buy food for my family. Lord knows food costs a lot these days. You better have two jobs. I'm going to put my children through a private school education. I mean, those are all very rewarding things, and it should give a human being a sense of accomplishment. You just can't hand something to somebody and say, here, and expect that person to flourish. They will not flourish.
That's right. Why should they?
Right. Why should they?
They're just going to keep getting more.
Right.
The interesting thing about that is, and I guess this is part of human nature, there are a group of us that can never have enough. There are a group of us that really appreciate what we have and what occurred to give us what we have. And then there are those who are just willing to accept what they're given. What troubles me about that is they're never going to get off the bottom.
Never.
They're there forever. And in a lot of instances, that's multi-generational. It's contrary to to the American dream, what we call the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just plain sad. And, I think that people should want to get ahead. They should want to work to achieve something more than survival.
Yeah. I always think to myself when I get up in the morning, I get up very early in the morning, folks, and I think to myself, what am I going to accomplish today? What am I going to do today? And it might be some simple little tasks. I'm going to visit the hospital, and that's a sense of I'm doing something for the good of society, but it's also good for me. It's good for me to go to the hospital and to visit sick people and say, I'm doing something good. I'm going to do a certain amount of reading today. Why? It's good for me, but it's good for my ministry, and it's good for my contribution to our society. It's good for me to feel like I'm contributing right here in our local area. I'm doing something to help people by nurturing my own mind and passing on what I think is right and good. Those things are extremely important. And so every day you should get up with a purpose. This is what I'm going to accomplish today. I'm going to read. I'm going to visit the hospital. I'm going to make an attempt to get in touch with somebody who I haven't spoken to in a long time and perhaps reestablish a relationship or make somebody feel good who's sick. Have that in your head. When you go to work, what am I going to do today? I'm going to give 100% of myself at work today. I'm going to be the best employee I could be. I want to contribute to the organization, contribute to the company, contribute to the church. I just don't mean financially. I'm going to use my time and talents and treasure to foster the good of the church community that I belong to. Mm. But and then you go to bed at night and say, yeah, I did this, I did this, I did this. And it gives you a tremendous sense of self-esteem. A lot of us don't have that sense of self-esteem. And we have to work to build up self-esteem. We can never just be satisfied and say, I'm done. We're not. Every day is a challenge, and every day we should contribute to society, not because society owes you a living, all right? Not because you're Italian, you deserve privilege. Well, maybe you do. But that's because, you use the talents and gifts that God has given you and the wonderful genetics that Italians have.
Father, you're hurting my self-esteem.
All right, the French too.
That's all for this week. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll be here again next week, same time, same channel, for a conversation with Father Orsi. Until then, I hope you have a great week, and God bless.